So we are going to continue with the chapter. We are going to start with endangered species. So last class we saw about reforestation, deforestation, afforestation. So we concentrate mainly on the trees, plants, that is the flora, that is the plant life. But this section we are going to concentrate on animal life as well. So about the animals, the endangered animals also. So as you know, the earth is filled with all flora and fauna, that is plant and animals. In India especially, we have the Bengal tiger in India and the Asiatic cheetah. So these two animals are specific to India. So it's not present anywhere else in the world. Only in India it is present. So certain species are specific to some parts of the world. So due to pollution, deforestation, loss of habitat, human interference, poaching and hunting, many animals are endangered and extinct. So endangered means that is they are at the verge of extinct. That means extinct means it's completely gone. It is completely wiped out from the earth. Whereas endangered means it is in the verge of being extinct. So that's the difference between endangered and extinct. And endangered, probably the amount of the animals which are present is very, very less. So if the humans are not going to save these animals, then they will become extinct. So that is the difference between endangered and extinct. So yeah, what are the extinct animals now? So extinct animals are dinosaurs and dodo. So dodo is a bird which comes under the family of dove and pigeons. So those birds are completely gone from the earth. So around 132 species are critically endangered in India, and the snow leopard, Bengal tiger, Asiatic lion, purple frog and Indian giant squirrel, or these are the animals which are endangered. These are the species are endangered in India. So these, if it is not saved right now, it might get extinct in the future. So these are the pictures of dodo and the squirrel, the Indian big squirrel and the purple frog. So these are the pictures. These pictures are not given in your textbook. So I took time to put it in the slide. Other pictures are given in the textbook itself. So you can go through in your textbook. It's on page number 265. The snow leopard, the Asiatic lion, and all those animals are given. So you can actually go through your textbook for those pictures. So algae, fungi, bryophytes, ferns and gymnosperms are disappearing. So these are very primitive forms of the plants. So these algae, fungi, bryophytes which you studied in the last semester. So these are very primitive. As you can see, they are not like plants which can hold on for many years. So their life cycle is very short, and they are very sensitive to the weather, the pollution and human interference. So they are very sensitive beings on the earth. So when these things happen, they become endangered. So they can't grow, they can't survive in the polluted environment. So these are becoming gone from the earth's surface. So each disappearing species may take away many species of animals. So when one type of species are gone, then the other plants or other animals which are depending on that plant for food, they also become extinct because they can't survive without the food. So it's actually become the food chain, the food chain in the ecosystem, it's getting disrupted. So when one species or any animal for that matter, animal or plants for that matter, when one is gone from the earth, then the other species which is depending on that animal or the plant for food is also going to suffer. So this is going to disrupt the food chain, and in the higher picture it's going to disrupt the food web itself, and again the food pyramid is going to get disrupted. So everything is going to collapse. Prawns, oyster, lobsters, crabs, squid, octopus, cuttlefish, beetles, dragonfly, grasshoppers, fish and even frogs are dying by absorbing poisonous gas through their skin. So all these animals which you can see, they don't, they actually have a very sensitive skin. Their skin is not like animal skin or human skin. So they are very sensitive to the environment. These things are very sensitive to the environment. They're very soft, and they can observe whatever is in the environment. So as you can see, they are absorbing the poisonous gas and all the pollution from the water and the air. So everything is getting absorbed by these animals, and they are dying. So example is locust in India. The locust, actually they got endangered. So you can't see much of locusts nowadays because they are completely gone now. So in India, this locust has been actually, this variety of locust is completely gone. So when these locusts are, these insects are very sensitive to the pollution. So they are completely wiped out. So another one is the sparrows. The sparrows are gone. So usually when I was growing up, the sparrows, I usually wake up with the sound of the sparrows. The sparrows, in the morning, the sparrows just, wake us up with their noise. So nowadays, I can't actually see any sparrows early in the morning, shouting out, with the noise. I can't see anything because it's completely gone. The sparrows are completely gone now. So within few years, so this is completely wiped out. So I hardly see any sparrows. Maybe like, when I go to some villages or towns, when I travel, I can see some, but nowadays I can't see anything. So one such example are the sparrows. It's completely endangered. So here they have given one list of reptiles, birds and mammals which are very rare to see nowadays. So in reptiles we can see some lizards are gone, turtles, crocodiles and gharials. So gharials are narrow mouthed crocodiles. They are also a variety of crocodile which have a very narrow mouth. They look like crocodile, but they are very smaller than the crocodile and have a very narrow mouth. Whereas birds, you can see falcon, eagle, hawk, vulture, peacock, peahen, pigeon, ducks are very rare. Mammals, you can't see nowadays. Like it used to, nowadays they used to, in olden days, these animals, they being a part of human beings. So they come here, there, and they go. Because their habitat is lost, nowadays you can see these animals are coming inside the towns and villages because it was their place to live and we took it over. So that's why they are roaming around in the towns and the cities because they lost their habitat. Whereas in mammals, you can see wild cats such as tigers, lions, deer, such as chinkara and blackbuck. So these two varieties are deer varieties, chinkara and blackbuck. And chiru is Tibetan goat. Now, Tibetan goat is a mountain goat. Musk deer, rhino, elephants, blue whale, flying squirrel. So all these are gone. So it is very rare. It's very, very rare to see these animals nowadays. So they are actually endangered because they lost their habitat. Main thing is they lost their habitat because we are cutting down the trees and using for housing purpose. And where do they go? Where do they live? So they are endangered now. So these are the list of some endangered plants and animals. Even these pictures are given in your textbook, so I didn't take any pictures. So it's given in 265 and in 266 page number. So you can go through your textbook for that. Endangered plants are umbrella tree, Malabar lily, Rafflesia flower, Indian mallow, muesli plants. So these are the plants which are endangered plants. Whereas snow leopard, Asiatic lion, lion-tailed macaque, and Indian rhinoceros, Nilgiri thar are the animals which are endangered. So these are the animals and plants. The pictures are given in your textbook. Okay. So how do we determine an animal or a plant species is endangered? So how do we know that? We can know by these following ways. This has to be done by the government. Basically, we can't actually go and search for the details, but the government are the ones who are responsible to determine whether the species is endangered. So first is when the geographical range of the species is limited. That is how much of animals that are present in one area or one country or one state. So if for example, if you take a tiger, Bengal tiger, it is actually inclined to the North Indian thing. So when you can see it's only present in that area, and the amount of the tiger which is present is, it is really less. And also any other part of the country, if you take in any other part of the country, the amount of the tiger is very less, then it is determined as endangered. The population of the species is limited. So already the Bengal tiger, the population is really limited basically because it's confined to one part of the country. Then and already it is really less, and also the amount, that is the number of animal is also limited. It's very less, and that is less than 50 adult individuals. So if you count less than 50 adult individuals, then it is determined as endangered. When the population has decreased or will decrease more than 80% in 10 years. So when you take in 10 years, okay, when you put a statistics of how much tiger was there in each year. So I'm just taking the tiger as an example. So when you take a statistics of each tiger of the tiger each year, then you will get a graph out of it. So if you know in the future if this is going to happen, this is how the graph goes, and then in 10 years, if the grass is going to decline, steeply, then you can determine the species is endangered. If the population is less than 250 individuals and is continuously declining at 25% for the past 3 years. So again, this is with the graph you can identify if the population is less than 250 and also it's going to decline 25% in the 3 years, then you can determine it is endangered. There is high possibility of extinction in the wild. So that if there is a high possibility of this tiger is going to extinct even in the wild in the sense even in the forest areas wherever they are living, it's going to get extinct, then we have to determine that species is endangered. So these are the causes for endangerment. So what are the causes? This you already know, we have studied in the previous class itself. These are the things which we do, and we are putting these animals and we are pushing it to endangerment basically. So first one is loss of habitat, which we just discussed. We are taking up their habitat and we are building our own shelter, and then these species are getting destroyed because they can't live, they have no place to go. So because of that, they are endangered. Overhunting and poaching. So we are very selfish, humans are very selfish, and we are actually killing these animals for pleasure. So poaching is for the skin and the products, the animal products. You're making leather goods, etc., shoes, coats. So we are actually killing all these animals for their goods. And hunting is we are doing it for pleasure, just for fun. So all these activities, because of that, the species is endangered, and especially the tigers, they become endangered because of this. Pollution is the number one cause, especially plastics. These animals eat the plastics and they become really sick and they die. And even the sea and the rivers are getting polluted with the plastic, and all these animals are eating them away, and then they are actually dying because of it. New habitat. So new habitat, sometimes humans, when you are put in your house, you are in the house, and if you travel to some other country or even to some other state or even some other area in the same state. So when you go there and you can't actually adjust, even your mindset, your body, your status, emotional status, everything is getting collapsed, and even you can't adjust to that environment, to the new environment. It takes a while for you to fit into that environment. So if you think all these food and the food habits and even the water, everything is changing, and sometimes you become sick out of that. So just take in the case of animals, the same thing is happening. So when you put an animal, if you take an animal from one habitat to the other habitat, it actually dies because the weather, the weather and the food, etc., they won't accept it. So example, actually, I just heard in the news, they took dolphins to India. So I think the dolphins, I think for some zoos or somebody, they took the dolphins to India, and the dolphins couldn't survive Indian climate, Indian weather, they couldn't survive. And dolphins need clean water. India can't supply clean water. So and even food habits, the weather, everything, they can't survive certain type of habitat. So when you take a species out of its own environment, own habitat, and put it in some other habitat, they die because of that. So we should think before we act. So we should not do such things. So we just have to let the animals live in their own habitat. So we are actually selfish of building the zoos and parks and so many stuff. So because of that, the animals are dying. Chemicals. So chemicals, by the use of pesticides and fertilizers, the industrial chemicals which are mixing with the water. So all these are the reasons for the endangerment of the species. And then diseases, as you know, like any other disease, if some disease is affecting and if the animal is not vaccinated, and any new diseases also, if it's not vaccinated, and the disease spread and kills a lot of animals at one shot. So that is actually again cause of endangerment that you cannot avoid. That's a natural cause. And natural calamities, as I told you, the fire and the flood, cyclones. So any natural calamity is also going to wipe out any animal or any species in one particular area. So these are the causes of endangerment of the species. So how do we save them? How do we save these endangered species? So it's our duty, of course, it's our human responsibility to save the species, because ultimately humans are in the top of the food chain, and if the food chain is going to get disrupted, we are also collapse along with it. So we are the responsible, citizens of each and every of this earth or every country. As we know, we are Indians, so we have to take the responsibility to save the endangered species. So by controlling, first is by controlling hunting and poaching. So it has to start from us, and then the government should do something. So by controlling hunting and poaching, we can control the endangered species. The next is controlling the pollution, consuming less. So we can pollution and consuming less both goes hand in hand. If you consume less, we can control the pollution. So when we throw away, when we throw away waste products less, then the pollution is reduced. And we travel, even traveling, travel by bus, taking a public transport, instead of taking your car or your motorbike, you can take a public transport, so it will again reduce pollution. These are small things which you can do to control pollution. But due to the pandemic, it is difficult. It is very difficult to take the public transport. In such cases, yes, you can't avoid certain situations, but you can, of course, take your cycle. You can take a walk if it is really nearby. So all these things, small things which you can do to control the pollution. Limiting plastics and recycling. So limiting the amount of plastics you use. So now the government has put a rule not to use plastic bags. So that's a good initiative. So as a citizen, we need to follow those kind of rules. So when government is doing such things, as citizens, we have to follow those kind of rules. So it is really a good initiative which is done by the government. So they stopped using plastic bags. And also recycling, whatever you buy, you have to recycle to some other purpose. So I think India is a country, we actually try to recycle products. It's a good thing basically. So we try to be really, we consume really less. So that's actually passed down from generation to generation by our parents. So that's a good thing to follow. But nowadays, when the kids are growing, we need to teach them how we can consume less. So buy less products and use whatever you have. Using eco-friendly products. So eco-friendly products are plastics which are eco-friendly, so they can degradable. They can go into the soil, mix with the soil, and the microbes can degrade them. So those are eco-friendly products. So using plastic, using paper bagging instead of plastic bags, and you can use wood or wood products instead of plastic, products, plastic things. So those are eco-friendly products. Limiting the pesticides and chemicals. So you can see while for farming you can use less pesticides and chemicals. Planting native trees. So we saw about the seed balls, right? So those are good things which you can do. So these seed balls can grow. We can throw it anywhere, and these seed balls can germinate into new trees and plants. So these are the initiatives which you can take to save the endangered species. Okay, now we studied what you can do. Now what the government has done. So we are going to study what the government has done. The government took a lot of initiative to save these endangered species. So one is Project Tiger. So Project Tiger, I would say this was the successful initiative which was taken by the government. So they could save actually a lot of tigers because of this, especially the Bengal tiger. The Bengal tiger was in the verge of extinction. So they took the initiative to save these tigers. So this project was actually proposed by the government in the year 1972 to protect the Bengal tiger, and it was a wildlife conservation project, and it was launched in 1st April 1973. So this was launched in 1st April 1973, and this was actually first initiated, and the Corbett National Park was the first park to take this initiative and take this project, and they made it successful in the national park. And the population, after this, the population increased, the Bengal tiger increased from 1,400 in 2006 to 2,967 in 2018. So there was kind of much increase in the tiger in 2 years. So that was a big deal for the Indian government actually. So this was successful. What they achieved is remarkable here. So this was a successful project, and after that, many projects were many initiative was given by the government. So here in Madras Wildlife Act, they took the that was actually given long back ago, 1873, and All India Elephant Preservation Act, 1879, the Wild Bird and Animal Protection Act in 1912. Bengal Rhinoceros Prevention Act in 1932. 1972 was All India Wildlife Protection Act, and Environmental Protection Act in 1986. So these are the few acts the Indian government has given. So these were the acts, but the successful was the Project Tiger. That was the successful project, because the government, what it did is, this is not given in a textbook, but what the government did is, they actually let the people know. It was on the TV. The Project Tiger was shown in the TV, and they educated the people about the endangerment of the Bengal tiger. That was actually shocking. When I was actually in the school, when school or something, I don't know where, I don't remember, but it was on the TV when I was studying, and they always said the Bengal tiger is in the verge of extinction, and we need to save them. So they took it in the TV, they took it in the radios. They started educating people about this. So when people know when they are educated, then they start working on their own life. So they started to take this initiative, and they started to worry about this. So that's why this project is a successful one. So the government did great in this. So these are the other acts, and these were the other acts, and this was the Project Tiger Act, which the government did something for the country. All right, let's move on. Okay, I think we'll stop this here for this class. We will talk about the red data book in the next class. So thank you, students. Thank you for listening.